Your past relationships is taking your new relationship and often seeing it through that filter or hearing it through that filter. So you find what you're looking for. Just like looking for brown, you'll see beige and call it brown. So it's really important to take that 100% responsibility. So now let's make this fun and show you how to end all arguments. Who'd like to not have to argue anymore for the rest of your life here, ladies and gentlemen? Now, not because you bullshit and lie or just accept what someone says when you disagree. That's not ending all arguments. That'll create long-term arguments, right? By the way, some people say, I have 1,001 positive and negative, but they're just a pleaser. They don't really believe what they're saying. They're just trying to please their partner. They're not being authentic. You know, when it's 20 to 1, 100 to 1, 1,001 authentic, it works. But when it's not authentic, it doesn't. So, you know, I'm always looking for people, you know, my platinum partners, we do these trips together every year all over the world. And I'm always like, we do a program on relationship. We do these, 5.5 days on this thing. We're doing it again this year. And I'm looking for other people to bring perspectives. So it's not just Sage and myself. And I look for people that are also living it. Because the worst part is usually a relationship expert and they got, no relationship or they just got divorced for the second time. And so there's honestly very few people in this category that live what they talk about. And again, whether it's, masculine, feminine, man or woman, or gay or lesbian, doesn't matter. I'm looking for anybody who can make any relationship work. And a few years ago, I met Dr. Julie Colwell, and she did this relationship skills workbook. And I read the book, and I thought, this is amazing. I met Julie, and she and her partner live in Colorado, and she developed this simple technique. Again, what I love is, remember I told you the other day, that complexity is the enemy of execution? One of her techniques is so freaking simple. And once you understand it, you can understand it in a few minutes. I'm going to show it to you. And then I'm going to show you an example with a couple where I used it. You can wipe out any argument. Now, how are you going to do that? Let's flip to what we're going to talk about here. You can only argue if you communicate something that's arguable. What does that mean, Tony? Well, here's the mistake that most of us make. If I say to you, I'm feeling pissed off inside because my feeling pissed off inside is inarguable. That's my feeling. But you created it? That's arguable. You're going to say, I didn't create it. I'm saying you created it. And there's going to be an argument. How many follow that simple distinction between the two here? Right? So if all you communicate is what you're really feeling, the sensations and the emotions, and what you want. Most people in an argument they always tell you what they don't want. They don't tell you what they do want. And after a while, there's so much upset, no one even knows what wants are. People just want to get away from it. So this little technique she calls SEW, S-E-W, SEW, and it has 3 parts. It is so simple, guys, and it is so effective. So let's say you're feeling upset. You're feeling sad, you're feeling frustrated, you're feeling angry, you're feeling overwhelmed, you're feeling stressed, you're feeling anything. Instead of going into, I'm feeling like this, you start out by saying, honey, I'm feeling this, and you describe the sensations and where they are in your body. That makes you come into this moment and out of the story you've made up. Raise your hand if you understand how you can get caught up in the story. All right, I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example. You're walking along in New York City, and you step off a curb, and an ambulance comes by without the ambulance sign going on, full tilt, and it almost hits you, but it doesn't hit you. Okay, that was the experience. Then there's the story of how the ambulance almost killed you, right? And all the things that we generalize, distort, and delete. How many understand the difference in what I'm talking about here? You're in your car, you're driving to work, and there was a flat tire. That's the fact. That was the flat tire. Then there's the story of the flat tire and what it made you feel and do, and you were late and all that bullshit. So we don't go through the story. We go right back to this moment, which is real, something we can do something about. So you say, honey, I'm feeling this tightness in my stomach. I'm feeling this tightness in my throat. I'm not breathing fully. I'm really sorry because what I'm feeling is, and then you're going to say what the emotion is. And let me help you. We have all kinds of words that aren't emotions anymore. I'm feeling out of integrity. That's a concept in your head. Different people have different models. Julie's model is there's 5 emotions, and I think it's a very useful model. By the way, models, masculine, feminine, the things I've just shown you about Gottman, these models, no model is the same as life. If you make a map it's not the same as the territory, right? But a map is very useful because a map can get you from where you are to where you want to be. It's not that it's perfect or it's completely accurate, it's useful. This is really useful. So think of there's 5 core emotions. All other emotions are some version of it. Sad, mad, which is angry, frustrated, pissed off, right? Scared, fearful, worried, right? Glad, which is happy, loving, and excited. Those are the core emotions. So the way you do so is you say, honey, listen, I just want to share with you right now, I'm feeling these sensations, and it makes you get in your body in this moment instead of in your head in the story. And then you say the emotion, but you don't say all these emotions. Put them back up there. Let's keep them in front of people so they see them regularly here. So I'm feeling sad, or I'm feeling a little mad, or I'm feeling a little scared, glad or excited. Notice I didn't say you're making me sad or mad or scared. I didn't say that. I said I'm just feeling this. And then the W is, what do you want? And I don't want to feel this way, honey. I really want us to be closer. And when you do this technique again and again and make it your habit, notice there's nothing there you could argue with, because all you're describing is your own sensations, which no one else knows but you, your own emotions, and you're not making up stories about them, just the 5 core ones. And then we're getting to what you really want, which will cut through all the BS really quick. Now, this seems so simplistic, I'm sure. You think, well, could this really work? So I'm going to show you, did a program with our Platinum partners last year, and I introduced this little technique at one point, and I asked for a couple that was having a challenge. And this couple had a problem that had been going on for 12 years, and on day 3, I think, or 2 of the relationship program, one of them was deciding to leave. They had this heated discussion the night before. Someone shared something, and they not shared it before, and for 12 years it's been hanging in their relationship, and it's over. The one's leaving. I'm going home, and one of the trainers told me one was so upset and angry, and the other one is so hurt. They're saying this is the end. And I said, get them in the room. And I thought, okay, let's do something so simple everyone can get that even in one of these situations you can do it. And you can see we got them in a good state first, because if you want to, by the way, it would be nice to put yourself, change your state before you share your sensations and emotions, because otherwise if you're really in an angry state, you might go into your angry story. So you want to change your state and come to your partner, ideally in a state where there's some neutrality, but maybe not. So let me just watch this. Just only a few minutes, and I'd like you to take notes of what you notice, what works, because I want you to leave today going, holy shit, I don't have to have another argument. I probably will get in one, but I can get out of it by going, you know what, I'm sorry. I'm making you wrong. I'm making you responsible. Let me just tell you, this is what my sensations are. This is what I'm feeling. Here's what I want. Do you see that? Like getting them to have a hug, getting them to connect, getting them to feel safe. Because if you start to try to do this and both people are on edge, it'll have an edge. It could still work, but it makes it harder. So that's why state is always the number one thing to improve anything. You want to break through in your relationship, change your state, change your story. And this is a way of changing the story but not blaming anybody. And this is the strategy that'll work in the right state. And it's so simple. How many like to do this? How many like to go practice this someplace with somebody you care about, right? Awesome. So now I thought... Well, truthfully, everything that I know about relationship that I'm going to help other people with is because of us, and specifically because of you, and my hunger to be better. So I'm constantly learning. She'll tell you in the beginning, I had a little tape recorder running around, and we'd have an argument, and I'd be like, I want to know why. What did you believe there? And then she goes, well, this is how feminine energy perceives something, sometimes different than masculine. But I got masculine too, she said. So sometimes I see it this way. And I'd be like taking notes, because I thought there's nothing more important to study for, because to me, love is everything. I wanted not just love, but love and passion. So honey, I'll interview you for starters if we could. We'll just play off of it. What would you say is the number one thing that destroys a relationship? Because everybody knows when you're in a great state, it's easy to have a relationship. What breaks it down? What in your mind destroys it?
Yes. Well, number one, I had an amazing example. My parents are watching right now in Canada. Hi, Mom and Daddy.
Hi, Mom and Dad.
There's so few examples of enduring love. And my parents had it all. When I say it all, there was his, hers, and ours, and as well, they fostered children. So our home was really dynamic. There was addiction. There was death of parents. Just this human experience. I think that's where it is so gorgeous and where we all meet. And I think, at times innocently, what destroys love is just maybe giving up too soon, expecting it to look different or your partner to be different other than what life is offering you. Because a lot of times in the pain of it, there's just such beauty when you're willing to see that through and come through the other side. But a lot of times, when we get together, it's this awe and wonder and, that excitement and the bliss stage. And not that that doesn't continue, but life offers us. It offers us, as it does every single one of us individually, but collectively there's life experiences, more accurately, that challenges us. And my parents were such a remarkable example of persistence and staying with each other. There they are. And also finding the laughter and the beauty and the playfulness. They're really beautiful together in their gestures. Till this day, my parents have been together over 50 years. They're still always like holding each other's hand and touching each other. And it's not that they have not had challenges, because we had tremendous challenges, as we all do. You can't be human and not be challenged. And I think sometimes innocently we have all these examples, whether it be in movies or whatever, and it's this, idyllic love. And the ideal love is actually having a safe harbor together and knowing that no matter what's happening on the external world, what challenges we have, whatever's difficult, that with a willingness and love, and kindness, you can rise above and make it through anything. And so I had the privilege to have that example, and it so schooled me. I learned so much. And at a different stage, when Tony and I weren't together, and in a different relationship, I hungered for that because I knew what it could look like, if that makes sense. And even with Tony and I, a lot of people will always be like, gosh, I wish I had what you guys have, and we've been to heaven and hell together. And I think that's the beauty of it. That's the honesty of it. Because once again, there was a knowingness of each other's positive intent, a knowingness no matter what the behavior, because we can all go unconscious. We can all be unkind in a moment. We can all be harsh in a moment. We can all yell in a moment. We can all do everything that we don't want to experience the other to do. We've all been that. I've done it, time and time again. But you start to catch yourself, because that's, I think, the beauty of relationship. I think what destroys a relationship is when we fix on the identity that he is this, or how dare he, or how could he or she, or this is unforgivable. Is it true? Divine grace gave us this space to be able to walk this path of love and to share and to grow and to evolve individually and collectively. And my parents did such just a really beautiful example of that. And it was messy at times. It's been messy at times. For those of you who look at us, just know that we've gone through it all. And I think that it's those textures that brings grace, and that brings even a vaster beauty. And I think the innocent part of us as human beings is a lot of times it's, I'm out of here, And we just never know if on the other side of that thought, what is possible.
I think another piece is in any relationship, if your partner feels like something else is more important than they are, whether that be work or whether that be kids or whether it be anything. I never thought before I met Sage that I could ever think of anything as more important than my mission. But my number one mission is here. And if this works, then I've got the energy for everything else. And the culture has changed radically. If you remember, in the 60s and 70s, movies about children were all about Rosemary's Baby and Exorcist, and children were thought very differently. You can look at literally the themes. And then in the 80s, it became Babies on Board, 3 Men and a Baby, a complete change where everything was about the child. And, we're privileged to have 5 kids and 5 grandkids and our child together, our little daughter together, 21 months. But in your family, maybe you can clarify this,
Yes.
because you had his, hers, and ours, meaning her mom and dad had been married before. They had children from different people. Then they had foster children as well. Mm-hmm. And then with that much demand, it would be easy if the kids are number one, and it doesn't mean their kids aren't unbelievably important. But if they're number one, then the relationship breaks down. That's what's happening in our culture.
Yes.
But your parents made it clear that there was time for their parents no matter what. And
They
then,
did.
like, why don't you share a little bit of that?
Well, number one, they were united. You know, I could never play my mom or my dad against each other. I knew that if I went to my mom, it would be the same answer if it went to my, if I went to my father. Being a parent now, I don't realize how much backdoor conversations you have to get to that, front-faced unity, which is so beautiful. They also, just, I don't know, they had date nights that was their time, and we also had time as a family. Every Friday night we'd go to the mall, we'd go for dinner. These simple, ordinary, meaningful moments that we forget the impact of what it does, not only in a family, but in our relationship. It's not the grand, big, even though we've had, really privileged experiences of life. When I ponder our love, when I ponder my mom and dad, it was silly things. It was water fights in the kitchen and, just random things, random, goofy, beautiful moments that life offers us to enjoy. Because why else are we together if, to enjoy and to share this love and this life? By the way, that doesn't mean that it's perfect. That doesn't mean that it's idyllic. That doesn't mean that it's harmonious every moment. It means that there's this space that in the beauty of it and the mess of it, it's all possible. And I think, my parents knew each other's soul. I mean, they knew each other's heart. They knew each other's intent. We know each other's heart and intent. And I think that that's so crucial, because when life is coming at you, or there's behavior that you don't expect or you don't want, or, something happens that you think, oh my gosh, I can't. If you know this individual's nature, the purity of what you fell in love with, I think, there's a remembrance in that. My parents did such a beautiful job of that.
So true. And you think about it, in a relationship, if you don't feel like this person's the most important thing to you, something else is, there's always a little bit of a hole. When you're the most important person, you let them know that most important thing in their life over and over again, it starts to sink in, and it creates a place where people have that certainty that allows them to open, allows them to feel safe, allows them to love at a whole different level. And your mommy and daddy did that so well. They also did it so well from the point of they also have passion. I mean, they're in their 70s, and they still... And your mother's going to kill your father, basically.
Truly.
He's going to die having sex, probably.
I'm still not over it. Oh, my freaking mother.
Mother is
She's
a total
awesome.
sex maniac. He's got a good problem, right? Yeah. But they have love and passion. They're playful. That's part of what makes it happen, is that sense of playfulness. It's not just all serious and heavy. It's like breaking your patterns. When I first met Sage, I said, I'm a serious mofo, man. I'm here to change the earth. And I said, I want to laugh more. I almost wish I hadn't said that shit, because she's made me laugh so much at different times. But your ability to break your partner's pattern. But they also had time for them. I want to make it clear that the children didn't feel, you might think, oh, then my kids won't feel loved. No, the children felt loved because mom and dad had their date night with you guys. Bedtime was a certain time. You didn't get out of bed. You didn't knock on the door unless you were bleeding. And they knew, oh, mom's going to wash dad's hair. I think later in life they figured out what that meant. Right? But they had their private time, and they made that important. And ironically, they didn't feel number two. They felt safe because they saw a relationship where two people are totally committed to each other and loving each other, as opposed to they're loving me every moment. Plus, when you're loving your child every moment, all the time, giving them exactly what they want, then they're not prepared for a relationship, because they think that's what life is, that my partner's every moment going to do everything I think I want. And then they get mad when they're not getting it. There's a whole generation of kids that are now adults that have a hard time in a relationship. They think I should be able to swipe right or left and just get what I want. Yes. They've been trained in their nervous system. It's not their fault, but it's not real. So one thing I hope you'll all gather is, I love our children. I love them all. And I love our daughter unbelievably. But this is still number one. I love my mission. This is still number one. And then you have to get to that place inside yourself where you're willing to commit to that. Some people are afraid to commit to that. But if you don't commit to that in your relationship, that'll be felt. It's such an important role. How about for people? Oh, go ahead.
Yes, and one other thing, just being our little lady is 20 months. And something that just so struck me is the recognition that, I believe we're born as love, recognizing and just experiencing this our daughter's nature is just so lovely. And she witnesses love,
Yes.
We see love. demonstrated all the time. And, you know, going with little friends on her little play dates and so forth, you know, she wants to hug or, you know, blow kisses or hold their hand. And it really strikes me how many children will push her away or say no. Like
most of them.
I mean, probably, maybe out of 20, maybe there's one or two that would. And so, you know, I had an example of my parents loving. That doesn't mean that they weren't, you know, that they were perfect. They were human. But, you know, love is demonstrated in the story here that, you know, sharing or offering, never mind to your beloved, but also to your children. They watch, they model, they perceive. They're more intelligent than we recognize. We believe stepping into the other room to handle it, that they don't feel. We all feel. We're energetic beings, and they can feel and sense that. And, you know, there's so much. You go on social media, you turn on the news, there's so much innocent demonization and people just, you know, pulling each other down or blaming each other. If you joined this event, I trust that there's a hunger in you for more, and that more is more love. You know, we're speaking of relationship, but it's love. I mean, across the board, we never know how much, never mind being an example to our children, but also, you know, if you're going to the store, that your smile, that your warmth, the currency of love makes such a difference. You know, the beauty of all of you when somebody has shared and the amount of love that you've extended here. This is our nature to actually be this supportive. This is our nature to want to extend and to support and to be kind and to celebrate and to magnify the gift that we are and the gift that others are. And somehow, culturally, that can innocently get lost in translation. So,
you know, if your love is really beautiful, hopefully it inspires others. You know, I remember early on we were down in Miami, and I made 3 or 4 years into our relationship, and we're outside this place, Johnny Rockets on Ocean Boulevard, or whatever it is there. And there's zillions of people coming by. And there's a group of kids that I think they'd done some school project or something. And they were at 10, 11, 12 years old. And they had all these balloons. And they saw us there. And we weren't paying attention. We were just in love. And 2 of them came up to us, and then 4 or 5 or 6 of them said, "You guys seem so happy, so in love. We think you should have this." And they gave us all their balloons. And I just thought it was so touching because it's a reflection that it's like I remember one time in my life somebody said, "Are you happy?" I go, "Am I happy? Of course I'm happy. When are you going to tell your face about it?" You know, it's like there's a difference between happy and cheerful, by the way. Happy can be inside. Cheerful is so much energy inside it comes out. But when your love expresses that much, it can inspire others, and it certainly affects your kids. And so if you start with nurturing here, it's kind of like, you know, if you get on an airplane, what's the first thing you tell you? If we get into trouble and there's no oxygen, that's a pretty big stressful situation. What's going to happen? This oxygen mask's going to come down, and what do they tell you? Put it on your kid first, right? Is that what they tell you? What do they tell you? Put it on yourself first. You go, "Oh, that's horrible. My kid's..." No, because if you don't have it on yourself, you can't help your kid. And you got to do that with your relationship first. Let's talk about, you know, I've seen some questions here. Some people saying, well, what if you're single, right? So when, you know, you may already be in a relationship and you've just ended a relationship trying to figure out what to do. I remember, you know, I ended one of my relationships, long-term relationship, because for years I was trying to please. I was trying to be that person. I can remember being on stage. It was a big deal in those days for like, I think it was 14,000 people at the Continental Center in New York. And I did this event, and it was people are, you know, you pour all your love into people, and people are generous. If you love them, they love you back. And it's this virtuous cycle of energy and love and vitality, and it feels so incredible. And during the break, somebody came up and whispered in my ear, "Hey, guess what? One of my companies gone public that day." And they go, "Your stock is worth $400 million. And I was like, "Oh my God, that's incredible." And that lasted about 2 minutes, and then I went back to what I was doing, which is what I love most. And then I came home that night, I'll never forget, and it was like, should have been the greatest day of my life, and it was, except I was in a relationship with someone who wanted me to be different. Can you relate to this? In the beginning of a relationship, maybe you met somebody, and maybe they made things happen, took charge, or maybe they were really funny, or maybe they were more quiet, and you love that connection with them. And then as the years go by, you're like, why are they always so loud? Why do they always have to take control? The very thing you used to love, you now get pissed off by. Or why don't they ever communicate? Whereas before you loved, they listened, right? Who knows what I'm talking about here? Who's had this shift happen inside you? Make some noise if you have. That's because in a relationship, first of all, if you are trying to be something for someone else and you're not really growing, or if you see something you like, it's because it's something that's in you that you don't realize is in you. That playfulness or that strength is in you. But if you're with them and you don't connect and grow, you only see it in them, you learn to resent it.
Yeah.
And so I was in a relationship with this person, and it's like all the things that were lovable about me suddenly weren't. And I was such a pleaser at that time. And gentlemen, by the way, not in business, not in sports, but when it came, because I was raised by my mother, I got to please her. And by the way, women hate pleasers. Ladies, if you hate pleasers, make some noise so the men hear you out there. By the way, this confuses men because they go, women say, I want to be pleased. That's different than being a pleaser, right? It's hard for them to understand the difference. But I went home and I try to adapt and okay, I'd be more quiet. Like the guy you're seeing right now, if you see me on stage, off stage, there's no difference. This is Tony Robbins, who I am. Tone for my woman here, right? She calls me Tone. But the bottom line is the same guy. I'm not having to be one or the other, but I'd have to come home and be something different. And so finally, I don't know if you're old enough to remember, VH1 used to do these stories called Behind the Music. Does anybody remember those things? It was always about like a rock and roll band. Yes, some of you know what I'm talking about. And they grow in the peak of their success. Somebody would be driving a car 100 miles an hour because they're so exciting, crash or overdose on drugs or whatever. It was always a horrible end. And I thought, oh my God, I'm so unhappy. I just made $400 million. I just did my life's work and I'm unhappy because I'm trying to be something I'm not. And I decided to make a change. So now what do you do to make the change? I wrote down everything that I really wanted in a relationship, everything. And I wrote pages, what I'd want to share with this person, how I'd like to love, how we play, we believe spiritually. It was pages of it. And then I went and crossed everything out that wasn't really a must. That was just a should. And then I wrote down, okay, that's great, but what kind of person would I have to be to attract and keep that love alive? And that's the more important question. First, you got to know what you want. By the way, you also got to know what you don't want. Sometimes you get what you want, what you don't want. I made a don't want list, and then I shrunk that down to the must. But the most important question is who I got to be as a person. And I read that list every single day after I was going through a divorce. I initiated the divorce. Even though I initiated it, I was still like, oh my God, this is so painful. I want to make everybody happy. My kids weren't happy at some stage, obviously. It was like, But I read it, gave me sanity, and then I'd read it once a week. And we met, and we were friends for 6 months. I was dating other people. It was wild. And one day I was like looking at my list. It was in those days you used to carry like a hard binder instead of your phone. And I was like, wait a second. I pulled out the list, and she was everything on the list I wanted and nothing I didn't want. And I realized I'd become the kind of person that would keep that. And would you share them with you? You also, without meeting me, we did something similar, didn't you?
Yeah, definitely. I think, for those of you who are single, the process that Tone just shared, we both did that, getting clear independently. And then, a lot of times when we're waiting for that one, we're so focused on getting that one that we forget to love here now,
Yes.
And whether it be on social media, whether it be your neighbor, whether it be your mama, your daddy on a phone call, something so simple, love, share, because it is our nature to do so. It feels unnatural not to. That's the resistance of the discord when we're, holding back that. So, if you're wanting to find love, the practice of course, making your list and being clear that you are that, but recognizing you are that love. And so we experience the love that we offer. And so being an extension of that, it's the balm that collectively this world so needs right now. And how beautiful, you get to be your most beautiful self. You get to share who you are rather than waiting for that one, because you never know what life experience is going to offer us. And you never know as well, he or she might look so different than you expect.
That's true.
They might be right in front of you. And, I don't know. I think it's a beautiful thing to just remember that it makes our experience of life, our day, so much more beautiful when we get to be thoughtful and connected and playful. But sometimes in our mind's eye, if it's like, oh my gosh, I want this, because ladies, a lot of times if we're looking for love, it becomes this like, oh yeah, but. Yes, but I don't have that. And we miss all the abundance that, God has blessed us with. So I think, opening our eyes and our hearts is a part of the gift of why we all came here this week.
Very much so, honey. The other thing I want to mention is learning how to play.
Yeah.
You know, how to, like, we almost never have a fight anymore. In the beginning we did,
Yeah.
because you clash up. In the beginning there's nothing. It's like chemistry. There's no fighting. Then you go through the stage where little things start to get resistance in you, and if you don't deal with them, they could become resentment or rejection, and it becomes challenging. And we got through those pieces. Now it's almost never, but we still get energy out. And we do it playfully. We tease each other. I can be sitting here like watching something, reading something, being something, also something hits me, and like hits again. And she's throwing almonds at me because she wants my attention. Right? So instead of saying, you know, being pissed off, I'm not giving her attention, she does it in a playful way. And I come and grab her and we tease, and that makes it fun, right? Or, you know, get over here, you know? We have these little rituals that you can create. Like, you know, you come home and it's like, where are you, honey? And you go running for each other like in a movie and so forth, and hug each other. These little things all stack. And they're all about breaking the pattern when you get too serious, too messed up, too frustrated. I mean, they're, you know, in my life, my family, it was very volatile. Things were communicated with intensity. They were physically. I swore I wouldn't do that and do that, but verbally I did. And she was in a family where it was kept quiet. And it was like, it didn't make much sense. But when I started getting upset, what really changed is she'd start to laugh. In the beginning, it would piss me off like crazy.
Well, because I'd never seen anything like it. I felt like I was watching a cartoon or something. And so I literally could not keep a straight face. And that only made him more upset.
In the beginning.
Yeah.
Then it just became silly. Like if you saw us off camera just before here, right? We're watching the video, and I got something here. I don't know what it is. Went in one of my nostrils. I'm still feeling it. And I'm sneezing and sneezing. I've never experienced anything like it, right? So my wife said, "Oh, let me help you. Let me spray." She has this stuff called Nixol. She thinks everybody needs to have this Nixol.
It is wonderful.
It's this little moisture. And she's like, "Let me get you." And she sprays it in my eyes instead of my nose. Like, honey, it's in my eyes. Oh, okay. Sprays it again. Sprays it in my ear. No, in my nose, honey. Come on. Right? But we, instead of being pissed off about it, we just laugh about it. That's my girl. She'll bump into a wall when we're walking. Like, honey, what's going on? But these are qualities. Like the things before, I'd be like, what's wrong with you? It's like you adore them in your partner. The things you used to think had to be a certain way. Like, I'm so grateful. Crazy and wild, not wild, but it's like crazy and weird. Weird was not on my list. That was not on my list. I got everything else on my list, but I also got weird. Weird is one of my most special qualities for my wife. I love this woman more than anything. She's one of the weirdest human beings you've ever known her entire life. Somebody came and just took our picture off camera, right? And she looks at me and goes, it's like, looks at him like this, you know? And you can see the guy panic, goes, you took the best pictures of us in the past. But her face is like, right? So we have all these parts of our personalities.
Sometimes you tell really great stories.
You know it's true. You know it's true, right? So ask the poor cameraman who's freaking out, right? Because in my wife there's feminine and masculine. In me, there's feminine and masculine. We're not like one or the other, and we learn how to use both. And that's the goal, right? Not to be one thing, not to let someone label you, but to use all your resources as a human being. So let's talk about those three things that, well, there's six really because they're all human. But when you're in your feminine, whether you're a man or a woman, there are certain tendencies of things that you're more sensitized to. They're not the only thing you're sensitized to. And when you're in your masculine, there's some things you're more sensitized to. And if you can notice your partner and what they're feeling, these will be really helpful. So we'll reverse it.
Sure.
I'll talk to the brothers out there, the masculine people, which can be men or women, but the ones that spend more time in their masculine. The thing you might miss that the feminine force in your life would have, and by the way, let me be clear.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say something too.
If you have two women in a relationship, or two men in a relationship, or a man and a woman intersexual relationship, in order to have energy, there's an opposite, passion. There's an opposite energy, just like the planet has positive and negative energy, north and south pole, or you go to electricity, two plugs. That's what creates it. When both people become the same, you can have a relationship that works, but it won't have as much passion.